everyone, and welcome to this latest episode of the GCEA Clinical Engineering Snapshot. Today's subject is Building Better Healthcare, the vital role of clinical engineering in hospital construction. And it's a really great pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Nata Zaman. A colleague and friend, Nata is passionate and dedicated clinical engineer with a career spanning over 2 decades. Throughout her career, she has held positions with significant leadership responsibility at major UK NHS hospitals in London and the south of England. As the head of a clinical engineering service and as the regional lead clinical engineer, she has provided high-level leadership and strategic direction locally, regionally, and indeed nationally. A passionate advocate for clinical engineering and particularly emphasising the role of women in this field, Nata continually promotes our profession and all those who work in it or aspire to support it at national and international level. Now, back in 2020, the UK government announced a major new hospital building programme with the promise of £3.7 billion, over $4 billion, to build 40 new hospitals in the NHS. Nata was appointed as the specialist advisor to this project as part of NHS England's transformation team, with responsibility for developing and implementing the medical equipment strategy for this huge programme. She has therefore brought the voice of clinical engineering to the very heart of the UK hospital building programme, and we look forward to hearing her insights into this programme and the lessons we can all learn about the vital role of clinical engineering in hospital construction. Nata, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to welcome you to this webinar focusing on the vital role of clinical engineering and hospital construction. I've been a clinical engineer for the past 20 or more than 20 years, and I've had different roles from starting from a junior engineer all the way up to leadership roles. For the past 18 months, I've been involved in one of the largest hospital construction program in England, and that's given me a significant insight in hospital construction and, most importantly, the role clinical engineering can play in successful implementation of these projects. Hospital construction is vital for meeting the healthcare needs of communities, providing state-of-the-art facilities for patient care and supporting medical advancements. Hospital construction embraces an inside-out approach, prioritizing patient-centric design and operational efficiency. This philosophy emphasizes the integration of clinical workflow, technology infrastructure, and patient experience from the inception of the design. By starting with the needs of the patient and healthcare professionals, hospitals can optimize layout, streamline processes, and enhance care delivery. Hospital design has experienced rapid evolution, driven by advanced medical technologies, changing healthcare delivery models, and shifting patient expectations. This contrasts sharply with the relatively slow pace of change seen in other commercial buildings. While factors such as sustainability and aesthetic plays an important role in any building sector, the dynamic nature of healthcare demands constant adaptation to meet evolving patient care needs, infection control requirements, and regulatory requirements. We don't even need to look that far back. The way we are delivering care today is significantly different to the way we delivered care a few years ago before the pandemic. Another complex around hospital construction is the vast number of stakeholders involved in these projects, starting from architects and engineers to construction and building sector people, to clinical staff, patients, public, support services, regulatory societies, so on and so forth. This vast number of stakeholders requires a significantly smooth, orchestrated project team to ensure every one of these stakeholders has the right engagement and the requirements are considered throughout design and build of these hospitals. Clinical engineering involves the application of engineering principles and techniques to healthcare technology management. It encompasses the planning, acquisition, maintenance, and optimization of medical equipment and systems. Clinical engineers are responsible for ensuring the safe and effective use of medical devices, optimizing technology, utilization, and supporting clinical staff in delivering quality care for the patient. Early involvement of clinical engineering in hospital construction project ensures the medical technology requirements are considered from the outset of the program, preventing costly modification later on. Clinical engineers are uniquely placed in a hospital setting. They have a very good understanding of clinical application of technologies to understand the patient needs and the staff requirements. They also have a very good understanding of the technology and interdependency and interoperability of those technologies with the wider system. This puts them in a unique place to be able to see the system, to have a 360 view on any selection of technologies, and ensures that they can collaborate with architects and engineers and design team to integrate the technologies into hospital construction, ensuring equipment and systems comply with the regulatory and standards. And also, by doing so, they safeguard patient safety and minimize the risk to the patients. The build cycle you see on the screen is taken from the Royal Institution of British Architects, but anywhere in the world they have similar steps in the build cycle. What's important to highlight in here is the role of equipping in every stage of the build cycle. And again, more importantly, the importance of the collaboration and engagement of clinical engineering in every step to ensure that from the strategical definition of the equipping requirements and equipment needs assessment throughout the design and special requirement all the way to the construction and handover, the equipment is considered. If it's not, for example, if you've been engaged in this initial state around equipment needs, but then you've said, okay, there's a construction, it's a building site, I no longer need to be involved until the end when I need to bring the equipment in, you will see some of the horror stories we have seen in nationally and internationally around construction, with the lack of interoperability and integration, correct integration of solutions. We've seen hospitals designs where the angle of the corridor is not correct, where you cannot move a bed into a side in the room in a corner of the ward, all the way to the size of the room is not suitable for spatial requirement you need around the theatre table, especially if you introduce new technologies such as robotics solutions. The design of this operating department is very important to consider these future technologies, because you may not use them currently in your hospital, but they are up and coming solutions. So it is quite important to be engaged throughout the life cycle of the project. Another reason you need to be involved, or clinical engineers need to be involved in every step of the project, is as the project advances, there may be changes in design or changes in clinical needs. We need to make sure those changes are translated into the equipment requirement, so the whole smooth running of the building and handover and occupancy of that building is done correctly and effectively. In UK, from construction point of view, you group the equipment into 4 groups. So the group 1 is equipment which are built into the fabric of the building. These are items such as your sinks, cabinetry, terminals, outlets. Your group 2 items are items that require fixing to the fabric of the building, such as your imaging equipment, your X-ray and MRI and CT, all the way down to your operating theatre lights or pendants. And group 3 and 4 are your freestanding items. There is a very good understanding from engagement of clinical engineering in group 3 and 4, from the selection to purchase to installation. Probably less so around group 1 and 2, and one would say, why do we need to be engaged? So for example, in the group 1 items, the selection of the number of outlets is quite vital. And the way they would know the selection of number of outlets, for example, the power outlets, is understanding what technology and equipment are going to be used around that bed space. So again, that engagement is quite vital to select the right number of outlets. How many of us have walked in a hospital where I've seen where they should have not been using extension cables or distribution additional sockets because there hasn't been this correct number design in the first place? And again, equally for group 2 items, it's vital to be engaged to ensure the life cycle management is considered in the selection of those solutions. So if a theatre light is selected and fitted to the ceiling, it's important to understand for the life cycle of that theatre light, the replacement lights bulbs are can be acquired easily and cost effectively. And because in the group 1 and 2, the main stakeholders are your construction people and your third party, who are not going to be involved in the running of the lifetime of that equipment. So it's important to have the clinical engineering involved to ensure that aspect is fully understood. And especially it's not just the thought hasn't been just put in place for the capital cost of those equipment, but what we call a revenue cost, the running cost of those equipment, have been considered to ensure the hospital can utilize those solutions effectively. Regardless of how you group the items from the construction point of view, even if you classify the equipment in a hospital, it can fall into one of these 5 categories. It falls into medical equipment, which is the bread and butter of clinical engineering, if you like. There's furniture and fitting, IT, communication systems, safety and security equipment, and environmental and facility management systems. One would argue, well, clinical engineering only needs to be involved in the first column. Not true, because all the other ones, there is an interdependency with the clinical engineering. Take furniture, for example. Hospital bed can be classified as a furniture, or a patient chair can be classified as a furniture. But clinical engineering needs to be involved to ensure the right equipment is selected for the right need of the patient. IT, we know we have seen more and more the line blurring between clinical engineering and IT providers with the rapid involvement around equipment and their integration to the networks. Again, we need to make sure that our IT colleagues and our IT systems are capable to take the required and understand the required load of these medical devices on the IT system and provide the right solutions and right capabilities. For example, if we have a Wi-Fi system, we need to make sure that Wi-Fi system for medical equipment is vital to have, not to have latency, so your equipment can connect to the network not almost immediately. And also there is no black spots, so the connectivity doesn't drop, because it will have a direct impact on patient safety. Also, around cybersecurity, which is a bit less unknown around medical equipment, or less effectively managed in a hospital, is a very good understanding around cybersecurity and IT equipment. But medical devices have their own intricacy around cybersecurity, where you cannot implement the traditional cybersecurity solutions on medical equipment. Again, it's very important for a clinical engineer to be involved to highlight the needs and highlight the challenges around those cybersecurity, and ensure that effective security is put in place. And then environmental facility management. I mean, waste management is one of the important ones. Lighting fixtures and controls are very important. So again, clinical engineering needs to be involved. For example, fluid management system in an operating theatre. You need to make sure that the equipment we use, which you collect bodily fluid, for example, can integrate in your trust fluid management system effectively to reduce the risk of infection in the hospital. Regardless of the classification, you need to make sure you consider one of all these 5 items in your selection of equipment or technologies, which are operational efficiency, quality assurance, cost efficiency, flexibility and adaptability, and sustainability. All equally important, all equally needs to be considered when you're doing a selection or implementation of a technology. They are fairly self-explainable. Operational efficiency, we need to make sure that any automation streamlines workflows, reduces manual errors, and enhance productivity. There's no point in introducing a technology where it may resolve one challenge, but introduce another 20 challenge, which is why it's important, again, clinical engineering having that 360 view of all the technologies used in the hospital so they can understand the intricacy around interoperability and interdependencies. Quality assurance, again, the needs assessment and the standardized protocol ensure high quality of and reliable solutions are put in place. Standardization of equipment and procurement process can achieve cost efficiency and minimizing wastage when it's and unnecessary spending. The cost efficiency also touches on the life cost management of the solution. Again, it's quite important not to just concentrate on the capital cost of purchasing that solution for that hospital. It's vital to consider the life cost management of that solution and ensuring the solution you select, it's considered, the cost is considered for the life cycle, not at the point of the delivery. Flexible adaptability, again, as I mentioned, the technology and hospital infrastructure has advanced rapidly, mainly because of the advancement of technology. So it's quite important to build in the flexibility and adaptability in your design to give you opportunity for a future expansion of future introduction of technologies effectively. And sustainability obviously is the number one criteria in everybody's agenda at the moment. Rightly so. So the consideration of sustainability should be taken into place when and during the equipment selection to promote items such as energy efficiency, waste management, reducing wastage, and possibly the opportunity to reprocessing and reusing as opposed to single use. As we keep talking about the future technology is unknown, but we know the rapid expansion of technology and the impact it's going to have in everything we do from our day-to-day life to our working life and hospital and patient care, most importantly. So when we are designing these hospitals, it's important to have a good understanding of the emerging need. These can be achieved by horizon scanning and understanding of the trends and innovation emerging in technologies in healthcare. As clinical engineers, it's important for us to stay informed about advancements of medical equipment and technologies in order to be able to provide the right guidance to the hospital. Around strategic planning, again, future technology assessment allows facilities to assess the potential impact of emerging technology to make sure, even if we are not considering to put in place the latest technology right now in our building. It's important that our design, if it's not future-proof, is future-ready. So it involves minimal infrastructure change requirement to introduce new solutions and future solutions in these hospitals. Again, that horizon scanning allows you to identify innovative technologies, which can revolutionize healthcare deliveries, and making sure that our design, again, is adaptable to those new innovations. And last but not least, and possibly the most important one, is collaborating and partnership with the industry to make sure the solutions and the technologies they innovate and produce is fit for purpose in our healthcare setting. And this collaborative approach can facilitate streamlined integration of future technologies into equipment strategy, wider strategy of health services. There are many challenges and considerations around buildings. Anybody who's had any sort of construction done in their house know the challenges around contractors and construction and building. You dig in a hole and you find another 20 challenges around that place. So time management is one of the challenges. The projects can delay for numerous reasons, from construction challenges to regulatory requirement to planning permissions. Whether can be any reason. What's important is that time management has a direct impact in your equipment selection. So if a project is delayed for whatever reason, we need to make sure, again, that gateway review around equipment every stage of the project. Make sure that you're on top of these changes and you adapt and you change your equipment requirement and needs accordingly. Budget constraint, money is always a problem. You can never have enough money. So what's important is understanding your budgetary requirements and then selecting the best solution out there within that price bracket. What's quite important is there must be never a sorry, I'm having a problem with the screen. There must be never a compromise, ever a compromise on patient safety. So even though the money probably is the first, talks first, as they say, patient safety triumphs everything. So that's quite important to have that constantly in front of your mind with every decision made around budgetary constraints. Unrealistic expectation is quite typical in any new hospital construction, because people do hear about the latest and the most shiniest solution out there. It's quite important to be engaged and understand the real need, and also understand the technology and its interdependency to make sure the selection is done correctly and for the need, not what's shinier. And then the hazard management and poorly defined objectives are the challenges around construction. But I think the top three, which are the time management and the impact on equipment planning, the budgetary constraint, and ensuring that the patient safety is at no time is compromised, and managing their expectation, is probably one of the three challenges clinical engineers needs to manage. There are, I mean, it wouldn't fit on a page or two, the solutions clinical engineer can lead or make sure that they're put in effectively. The two I'm going to touch on are the imaging system and silent hospitals. Probably installation of imaging system is one of the most challenging technologies in a hospital. From the vast number of stakeholders involved, from the clinician, the construction and builders, to the third party or provider of your imaging system. And again, that linkage and overseeing all these different pieces are fitted together effectively. Clinical engineers are very placed effectively in the right place to oversee this engagement and implementation, and also ensuring every element of this puzzle fits together correctly and effectively and safely, most importantly. The other one is around silent hospital solutions. For those of you who are not familiar with the silent hospital solution, this is effectively reducing the alarms and the noise in the patient environment by directing those alarms from the bedside into a handheld device for a person who's providing the care for that patient. One of the main anxiety patients and publics have voiced around hospital is the alarms and the noise around the hospital, which gives them that feeling of anxiety because they don't understand what these alarms mean or what they are supposed to do about it. By removing the alarm from the bedside of the patient and directing it to the person who's provided direct care, it provides this quiet environment for the patients and healing environment for the patients, and also ensures that the alarm has gone to the right person to action correctly. However, there is a lot of challenge in providing these solutions end to end, from selection of the solution, the interoperability between different factors, because there's your bedside alarm, there's your nurse call system, there's your medical devices, and also the staff. The change of culture in the staff and the way they respond to an alarm has major impact in implementing these solutions effectively. There has been cases where the medical equipment are not compatible with the silent hospital solution purchase, or the silent hospital solution purchase, the Wi-Fi system isn't up to standard, so there's a latency in the network, or there are black spots where if the nurse and the handheld device are in that black spot, they may potentially not receive that alarm. So there are vast number of challenges, and consideration needs to be put in place to make sure that the patient safety is not impacted. However, one of the biggest requirements is addressed, which is providing a quiet and healing environment for them to be. I think this was a whistle tour around involvement of clinical engineering and the hospital construction. It is a very complex project, building a new hospital, and what I always say is you can have a tent, and if you put the right equipment in it, it will turn into a hospital. So the equipment selection is vital in order to provide effective care for the patient, and clinical engineers are best placed to ensure that this selection is done effectively to provide the best technology for the healthcare providers to use, and the safest technology for the patients to receive the best care available. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you enjoyed this webinar.